I came down the hill this morning from up there by the hoop house and down the trail. I could smell this wonderful elderberry flower. So I'm attempting to pick elderflower. We're going to make elderflower wine, and they all seem to grow on a precarious hillside. So I'll see what I can do. It's just the flowers I need, and it's a good day to be doing it. It's cold, it's dreary, and I have a companion. I'm really slow at this. There's a target limb up there with some flowers. So using John's handy dandy lightweight fiberglass pole with a hook at the end, I, in theory, pull the limb down and strip the flowers. And here they are. Even these that look so easy are on a slope. It looked so easy, and they're so big and gorgeous. What can I do? I'm afraid of sliding down this slope though. And finally, the easy elderberry bushes, which I had been saving for last. Unfortunately, we do not have 5 pounds of sugar with which to begin the fermentation process, so the flowers will be frozen until such time that we have a boat capable of getting us to Uzinki or into town. Which brings me to the sad topic of boats, or rather lack thereof. With the drowned motor running and the gear shift adjustment sorted, the motor was hauled down to the beach, attached, the whaler was launched, and tied overnight at the float. After a night of rain, John kayaked out to the whaler, and the motor refused to start. The motor is now back up at the barn. Work on the backup plan, repair of the heavy leaking aluminum skiff, began shortly after our arrival. It was a multi-step plan which, oddly enough, began with an electrical project. Originally, one circuit served the beach, the barn, the hoop house, and the northern outdoor electrical connections at the house. Under Lee's direction, a dedicated 30-amp circuit was installed to solely serve the beach, and another circuit installed to serve just the barn and hoop house. The GFI outlet on the beach was replaced, and the beach could now support the power draw of the MIG welder. The next step was repairing the tires on the log splitter. At Sailboat Cove, projects often have unintended results, and that was the case with the subsequent step. Cutting rounds of wood off a dead spruce rooted on the hillside, and which fell in 2019, narrowly missing the barn. The downed spruce furnished many rounds of firewood over the intervening years, as rounds were cut from the top, moving towards the root end. 2 weeks ago, when John cut the third round off the spruce, the remaining weight hanging down the hillside caused the tree to spring up, and Lee and John watched open-mouthed as the remains plunged down the hillside, plowing up a furrow and narrowly missing the woodshed. Luckily, there were enough rounds that were split, and using the indispensable tractor, the split rounds were wedged under the skiff to raise it high enough to weld the bottom. Getting to this point took time, due to delays for wet weather and routine chores. It was only a few days ago that John began preparing the skiff for welding, with grinding and hauling the welding equipment down to the beach. The welding process itself was a frustrating procedure for an amateur welder, welding aluminum and having to weld overhead. After hours of work, welding, and grinding, John grudgingly decided to call it a day. The work area has been covered with splash zone, and now we are waiting for a non-rainy day to run water into the boat to check for leaks. Then possibly, as soon as tomorrow, the skiff will splash. Though we have been boatless, we have not been cut off from the world. Christy hitched a ride into Kodiak for a dental appointment and did a little grocery shopping. And a few days later, John and Lee were picked up by a neighbor to help move a newly ordered refrigerator from Kodiak to Helsinki, also giving them an opportunity to resupply. This was, however, before my urgent need of so much sugar. They did return with beer and rum for hot buttered rums, perfect for our cold weather. It is also interesting to note that a lot of the local skiffs are built locally, and a popular feature is a bluff bow that opens for landing on beaches. Here is the same boat zooming by with the refrigerator on its way to Helsinki, and in spite of the bow, it does get up on plane and move. A similar type of boat from Raspberry Island Lodge stopped by to pick up an order of produce from the gardens. The weather forecast for the next 10 days is for clouds, most days with precipitation, and maybe, if we are lucky, an hour or two of sun. Even with this unusual bad weather, the surrounding mountains have greened up, trees slowly sprouted out. However, because of the lack of sun and so much rain, the garden is struggling. And Christy says she has never had a garden perform so poorly. Stay tuned for the next episode of the trials and tribulations here at Sailboat Cove. So, until then,